Hey there. It's another beautiful day. Let's watch some stuff.
Some people do stupid things. Don't do stupid things. You are about to hear my opinion. Do your own research.
What if the fight between Elon Musk and Donald Trump was in fact staged? I mean, think about it. Elon Musk has been losing support from the left for years. He bought Twitter and went after the woke culture. And then Democrats turned on him and turned on him fast. But now, all of a sudden, he flips and accuses Trump, of all people, of being on the Epstein list? Really? And that's not just a random jab, that's a calculated move. Because what's the one thing that would instantly make Democrats cheer for Elon again? Destroying Trump with a scandal they've been screaming about for years. And here's the wild part. What if Trump is on it too? These two billionaires would have known each other for years. I mean, heck, they've just been working together almost every single day. This could be the greatest political misdirection play we have ever seen. We thought Joey's cognitive decline was something. This is definitely on another level. Elon gets public redemption, Tesla bounces back, SpaceX keeps landing government contracts, and Trump, well, he walks away looking like a victim, and maybe he takes the fall to take attention off something even bigger. Is this a feud, or is this
I
theater?
know, as usual, I'm a little bit late to the party, but the whole California thing happened over the weekend and it is still going on, which is absolutely insane. But I wanted to talk about that yesterday, so now here we are talking about the whole Elon Musk Donald Trump thing. But what if it is political theater? I mean, it makes a bunch of sense because now Elon's going to get his reprieve and everybody's finally going to get the Epstein list. I mean, everybody's on it. That's why it's not coming out.
Did the Mexican president just admit that the people she sent over here is so they could send the money back to Mexico? Almost admitting that these people are here for financial reasons to help out the Mexican people and the Mexican government? But in an amazing turn of events, the Mexican president, well, she came out with something to say. She calls to all her people that are here in the United States illegally to mobilize in the streets and protest, almost goading them on to keep on rioting in the streets. This is coming from her Madam President of Mexico herself. So the whole time we were saying, hey, these were military-age men coming across the border. This is an invasion. And they were saying it wasn't. The Mexican president, in my opinion, just codified it that this is a Mexican invasion of the United States. They are waving their flags, claiming the land to be theirs. Rewriting history. Even though Mexico sold the land, they're claiming it as Mexican land now. And the Mexican president, look it up. Look it up. In my opinion, this is a declaration of war and an act of war by the government of Mexico in our faces right now, and we have politicians in our own government covering it up. Why would our own government be backing up the Mexican government's infiltration of the United States? I would love to hear your opinions in the comment section. Don't forget to like and share so this shit goes out.
So, what the Mexican president is all up in arms about is a 3.5% tax that is woven into the one big beautiful bill on money that is being sent from Mexican nationals in the United States back to Mexico to the tune of $60 billion a year. So that means we'll get 3.5% of that to stay here. So she's all bent about that because that's a lot of money. That's billions of dollars that's not going to Mexico now. And Senator Eric Schmidt was like, oh, you want to play games? All right, well, I'm introducing legislation to increase it to 15%, which is, yeah, he's like, them's fighting words, and so we're going to fight, and it's going back and forth. But I'd like to know what you think in the comments. Please let me know. And while you're there, won't you please hit that like button and consider subscribing?
This is both disturbing and scary at the same time. The FBI has confirmed that they've arrested two Chinese scientists. They attempted to smuggle in a biological weapon into the United States. And if they had not been caught, and this hypothetically was released into the US, it has the potential to cause mass poisoning. So from what we've been told, they attempted to smuggle in a fungus. Now this fungus, if let loose, would destroy our agricultural crops. Wheat, barley, oats, and even corn. The disease would be called head blight. It is so lethal that it can wipe out entire crops. And if you were to eat foods that were tainted with this fungus, it can cause severe liver damage. They're being charged with conspiracy, smuggling, and visa fraud. So my question to you is, do you think this was a CCP failed operation, or just two Chinese researchers caught up in a Chinese America beef?
So this chick apparently, I guess, worked for the University of Michigan, doing what I'm not 100% certain, probably, agricultural stuff, but she was funded by the Chinese government to work on this particular pathogen. They're calling it agroterrorism. They also supposedly went through like her electronics, and she's got information showing her membership and loyalty to the Chinese Communist government. So were they trying to knock out these crops? I mean, it kind of feels that way, doesn't it? But the FBI is investigating it, and hopefully we'll find out.
Thank you, MSNBC, for asking the dumb questions.
Why did Elon Musk fail so spectacularly?
There's a very easy answer to that, and that's because Doge, under his leadership, proposed 192 separate cuts to reduce the deficit. And in response to those 192 actions, the Democrat Party sued him 181 times, with 164 of those lawsuits still in litigation. So 192 actions to reduce the deficit, which would have totaled $892 billion of cuts. 11 of them were not challenged. Those 11 amounted to about $100 billion worth of cuts. Now, there are 17 more that just reached resolutions, and the cuts haven't been made yet. Those 17 cuts will reduce the deficit by an additional $231 billion. And then we have 164 more actions that are currently under lawsuit with the Democrat Party. So when you ask, why wasn't Elon Musk able to cut more from the deficit? Well, the answer is because the Democrats sued him 181 times, with 164 of those lawsuits still pending. The Democrats took our money and sued Doge with our money to stop him from saving us money. That's why. There's your answer to that idiotic question.
It's crazy because when it's all said and done, is there any money saved? Not really, because they want to file those lawsuits, which cost us that money that would have been spent on other frivolous things for this frivolous thing to save their money from going somewhere else and keep it coming to them. It's a vicious cycle, and it's absolutely ridiculous.
Okay, someone's getting executed. North Korea just tried to launch their brand new 5,000-ton warship, which is meant to be the pride and joy of its navy. But instead of a spectacular launch, the ship capsized halfway through the reveal right in front of Kim Jong-un. They tried sliding the ship into the water, but it got caught under its own weight and started sinking. And this whole thing was being broadcasted to the entire world. So he got so embarrassed and said this was a criminal act by his naval engineers, and they would be punished. In other words, $500 million sank underwater in front of the dictator for the entire world to see, right in front of Kim Jong-un.
Part of me wants to say maybe this was a tactic. Like he's like, hey, I got this brilliant idea. Let's sink it so that everybody thinks we are inferior making these ships. But then they have like another one that's like the real one, and nobody's expecting it because the whole world saw the ship sink. Then the other side of my brain remembers that this is the country that claims that their researchers found unicorns, and that past rulers never defecated. So maybe they just can't build ships very well.
I can prove to you that you can get an entire society to believe in a lie. These all go to the same place. 95% of everything that ends up in those barrels gets burned or buried. And of the 5% that actually does get recycled, it takes more energy to do that than it would to just throw it away and make new stuff. And some of the recycling projects they do, like cutting up plastic and tires to make kids' tracks and sports fields, it gives them cancer. Every time you separate your garbage and you get it into the right bins, You wheel it out on the right morning so it can get picked up by the right truck. You feel like a good person. But you're not. You're ignorant. Isn't that amazing?
I got one more clip about this, so let's watch that real quick.
So you're a plastic company. You teamed up with oil companies to create a miracle product that can do pretty much anything. It's cheap, durable, easily accessible, and easy to mass produce. What more could you ask for?
I know, I feel like I'm dreaming.
And by the 1980s, you're in your prime. The only problem is plastics can't be destroyed. They just keep piling up and up and up. Now, this is actually not a problem for you. The more plastic that piles up means the more plastic you're selling. But the real problem is the general public. See, the masses crave to feel that they're good people, that they're the righteous ones, the moral ones, fighting against evil. And polluting the planet with plastic trash that takes upwards of half a millennia to decompose makes you an easy target for the plebs. In their eyes, you're the evil scapegoats. So the general public starts protesting the plastics industry. Now, this is bad, because you know the success of anything, political movements, educational movements, businesses, entire industries, including the plastics industry, rely on the approval of the public. If the public turns on you, you're done. So you need to come up with a solution, something that would change the public's perception of plastic, something that will allow them to keep consuming plastic without feeling guilty about themselves for destroying the planet. The only problem is, most plastic is literally not recyclable. It's not just that you can't recycle plastic, it's that the process to do so is so expensive and labor intensive that making new plastic will always be cheaper. So you settle on the next best thing. This is the recycling symbol created in 1970. And this is the resin identification code, a symbol created by the plastics industry in 1988. A symbol that's on almost every piece of plastic you buy today. Now, if you're saying to yourself that symbol looks shockingly similar to the official recycling symbol, you'd be correct, because that was by design. A design to intentionally deceive the general public into believing the plastic you buy is recyclable. Yes, recycling is a literal lie concocted by the plastics industry to sell you more plastic. And this is how it was pulled off. How much plastic could the world
Possibly use? Oh, that's not so much. So? I had no idea.
You can even recycle your bicycle, cause all metals and plastics are recyclable. So reduce, reuse, recycle. Reduce, reuse, recycle.
Most of what makes people feel good about recycling is based on misinformation.
I remember when the waste management companies brought us out those bins. They were little like bins, like totes, right? And you put your plastic bottles in there and your glass whatever jars, and they recycled them. And it was a huge thing, and everyone felt really good about recycling. And now we have the huge regular sized, city bins where you put all of your recyclables and they all go to the same place. So they manufactured this feeling amongst the people that we're doing something good for our environment by recycling these recyclable items. But it doesn't matter what bin you put them in. They're going to the same place.
Let's talk about one of the most dangerous men in American history. Meet Edward Bernays, the nephew of Sigmund Freud, who used his uncle's theories that people are more driven by their unconscious desires and fears than by rational thought. He used this to overthrow the government of Guatemala and taught the CIA psychological warfare. During World War I, he worked for President Woodrow Wilson on the Committee of Public Information, where he used emotional manipulation to steer the public's opinion about the war. Bernays said that if you could use propaganda for war, then you can use it for peace. But what he really meant was profit. He rebranded propaganda to be used for corporations and called it PR, public relations. We can thank him for the fluoride in water. In the mid-20th century, the aluminum industry was facing a problem. Fluoride, which was a toxic byproduct, was accumulating. Getting rid of this industrial waste was expensive and difficult with new environmental regulations. So the Aluminum Company of America hired Edward Bernays, and he was able to spin this from a hazardous waste into a benefit to the American public. He enlisted the support of the American Dental Association to endorse fluoride. He staged public events, hired select white coat experts, and anybody who spoke out against it was framed as deranged and delusional by his propaganda machine. Another one of his clients was United Fruit, which is now known as Chiquita. The United Fruit Company was an American corporation using a lot of land in Guatemala to grow bananas. when their democratically elected president decided to redistribute some of the land back to Guatemalan farmers. So they hired Edward Bernays, orchestrated a massive campaign to make their president look like a communist threat and a Soviet puppet. One of the tactics he used was by sending journalists to Guatemala and then controlling what happened to them while there. This led to President Eisenhower authorizing the CIA executed a coup which forced the president to resign. This led to a military dictatorship taking over, which led to land reforms and United Fruit getting their land back. This plunged Guatemala into decades of violence, civil war, and hundreds of thousands of lives lost. If you've ever wondered why Sigmund Freud's work is so renowned, it was also the work of his nephew who used public relations to frame Freud as the father-grandfather of psychology. He did this by getting it in libraries, getting journalists to write about it, and getting celebrities to praise it.
So this guy wrote the book on propaganda. Literally, there's a book called Propaganda by Edward Bernays. And he was using it to help companies profit. And I had no idea that fluoride was a byproduct of aluminum manufacturing. And he's like, we got to figure out a way to use this byproduct. And lo and behold, fluoride is in the water. It's in the toothpaste. It's a dental helper thing. When it's really not. And I'm glad that we're finally figuring that out, and we're finally figuring out a lot of twists and turns that this guy put into play.
We made a research and found out that the American public ate very light breakfasts of coffee, maybe a roll, and orange juice. We went to our physician, found that a heavy breakfast was sounder from the standpoint of health than a light breakfast because the body loses energy during the night.
It's always more believable with some kind of scientific research behind it. People don't know that scientific research can also be biased and manipulated. We'll talk about that some other time.
And needs it during the day. We asked the physician, after telling him why we were talking to him, would he be willing, at no cost, to write to 5,000 physicians and ask them whether their judgment was the same as his, confirmed his judgment.
Just to add to this, they're getting a little bit of kickback for writing these papers and approval forms or whatever.
He said he would be glad to do it. We carried out a letter to 5,000 physicians. Obviously, all of them concurred that a heavy breakfast was better for the health of the American people than a light breakfast. That was publicized in the newspapers. Newspapers throughout the country had headlines saying 4,500 physicians urge heavy breakfast in order to improve health of American people. Many of them stated that bacon and eggs should be embodied with the breakfast, and as a result, the sale of bacon went up.
And that is why breakfast became the most important meal of the day, because these doctors did agree with him that more calories in the morning is better than less because it fuels you throughout the day. That's what he did. He took all that information and he twisted it to support Beechnut, which is a bacon company. So that's why bacon and eggs are a breakfast staple, because he twisted the scientific research, which is what happens whenever there's a scientific research, because they take the information that they want that supports their narrative and they're like, here, look what all the professionals said. It's all bought and paid for.
I know this video is going to piss off a lot of people. Chemical imbalances do not cause depression. There has been zero evidence to ever prove that a chemical imbalance causes depression, and if somebody is telling you that their chemical imbalance is making them depressed, they are lying to you. This entire scam about chemical imbalances causing depression came about in the 60s, called the serotonin hypothesis. And there has never, at any point in time, been substantial evidence to prove the serotonin hypothesis to be correct. And they don't even know how antidepressants even work. It is driving me insane, the amount of people that I meet and speak to that are on these brain meds when they don't really know the history behind them. And I want everybody to know, before you start crying in the comments, the Library of Medicine is public. You can read research articles all day long just like I do. But you want to know what's really causing your depression? Your life choices. If you have no faith, no religion whatsoever, you're probably going to be depressed because you have no faith. You have no outlook to think that things are going to get better. If you live in a fantasy land and you're working a job that you actually hate, you're going to be depressed. These all come down to self-identity characteristics. If you go through the long list of self-identity traits and pick 5 of them and base your life around this, you're going to be happy again. The reason why they're giving you SSRIs is so you will obey. They want you to obey and be a slave. They don't want you to ask questions. They don't want you to make your own decisions. And it's about time people start taking accountability for their own actions in their life and understand that they're depressed because they made bad choices.
While I don't agree with everything that he said, because personally I am non-religious and I am not depressed. So, I don't know if I'm an outlier or an exception to the rule, but I'm doing just fine. But as far as the chemical imbalance in your brain, yeah, there have been a lot of people that are coming out and going, no, there's no actual proof that a chemical imbalance in the brain causes depression, that it's an actual thing. So don't take my word for it. It's just what I hear and what I see, and do your own research on that. But Big Pharma is like, hey, chemical imbalance, we have something to help that. It costs money. It's going to make us money. Push it.
Are being told you have a chemical imbalance of the brain which is genetically determined and you've got it for life and there's nothing you can do about it and you will forever be limited and restricted and you must take these tablets which will dampen your creativity, your sensitivity, your awareness, they will damage your sexuality. You've got to do this because you're sick and we can see it, but you can't. Now that is that to me is the catastrophe that has to be exposed. The general public needs to know where their hundreds of millions of dollars of research money is going and where their billions upon billions of dollars of treatment money is going, and above all, where their sons and daughters and mothers and fathers are going. And that's where it's at. Bugger the money. Excuse me, but bugger the money.
While mental health is no joke, what mental health has become in the United States is a money-making joke, because everybody has some kind of mental disorder that requires some kind of pill, and it's unfortunate that that is the narrative that is being pushed, and people are believing that, oh, I have a mental imbalance, a chemical imbalance, excuse me, and I need medication. In some situations, yes, I have seen individuals that definitely need some medication, and I have seen individuals that just need to take a second and reflect and maybe change their life because they're not happy with what they have become. Everybody has a mental health issue. Everybody needs to see a psychiatrist or a therapist or a psychologist, and it's just a huge money-making thing, when in reality, if we take the time to look at ourselves versus everybody needs help. Oh, you need help. We can do a lot within ourselves that we don't realize we can, because everybody is saying, oh, you need to go get help. And yeah, like I said, some people do, but not everybody does, because that's what's happening. Everybody does. All right, now let's carry on with our Bigfoot story.
Yeah, before all this happened, what makes you think it was a Bigfoot? Did you have howls before? Did you had howls?
What we've had, I have heard whoops on my place. Okay. I've heard them whooping, and they will whistle to communicate. I hear a whistle to the right, I hear a whistle to the left, I hear them whistle, and I hear them whoop. And not to get off the subject, but one time he wanted to do the deer hunt in Musbar, which is late in the season, and we'd had quite a bit of Bigfoot activity and kind of a lot of aggression at that time. And I told him, I said, I'm not going to hunt, I'm going to sit with you and watch your back, because I was kind of concerned about it. I don't think they'll hurt you. That morning, right at daylight, I heard one whoop across the valley on the hillside. I heard one to the left whoop, and then I heard one to the right answer whoop. Then I heard one up the valley whoop, and then the one to the left that started it whoop back to let them know that it hurt them. So anyway, back to what was going on with me and him on that hillside. Why I think it was a Bigfoot is because, just to make it shorter, when we was going back down off the hillside, he's younger than me, so he was quite a distance ahead of me, and he stopped and turned around, was waiting for the old man to get down the hill. And he was looking back behind me, and he seen it. And he said that it was smart enough to stand back off of the hillside where you could only see its eyes and its forehead peeking up over the top of the hill. It was not exposing itself.
Yeah.
And he said he seen it watching me come down off the hillside. He said it was reddish brown in color, and he said that it would weave back and forth as it was looking at me. He said it just kept doing that. And he said it watched me come down off that hillside. And he said I got about 20 yards from him, he said it backed off and disappeared. So that's why I say, yes, it was a Bigfoot.
Wow.
Yes.
So how far away is that from here?
My property?
Yeah.
Probably 50 miles.
50 miles?
Yep. It's in the middle of the Daniel Boone National Forest. Daniel Boone National Forest is, a lot of the government owns it, but there's also privately owned property that's in the Daniel Boone National Forest. I am lucky enough to own some property right in the middle of it. And I've had a lot of other activities on my place.
So if I'm able to convince everyone here to come and investigate your property, would that be okay?
That would be fine with me.
Okay. Don't tell them I'm going to ask them. Okay?
You said your buddy saw it a second time.
Yes, he did. But that was in a different county. That's where I become to know about Bigfoot. I'm an avid deer hunter, and I always hunted down what I call the flatlands. I never hunted in the hills, and I never thought about a Bigfoot. I never seen a Bigfoot. Didn't even know about a Bigfoot. And my daughter buried a boy up in Lee County, up in the hills, okay? And he goes, won't you come up here and deer hunt with me? And I said, okay. And I started deer hunting up there with him, and where I've hunted all my life, I know the woods. Well, I started seeing things that was out of place. And again, I didn't know about a Bigfoot. I didn't even know what I was seeing. And what I was seeing tree breaks about 8 foot high. And I'd walk down a trail, and about 50 yards away, about the seeing distance away, I'd find another tree break, 8 foot high, bent over in the same direction. I'd walk on down the trail, find another one. I think it was a marker for another one coming through to show them the way. And I go, what is this? What is this? So I just kind of brushed it off. And so me and him used to take walks in the woods after that. And we come up on this real thick cedar thicket. And you had to bend down, almost crawl to get in it. We got back in there and we found a bed.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And what it was made of, now this was a cedar thicket. The bed was made of pine needle limbs. And it was probably 6 inches thick. It was probably 8 foot long and 4 foot wide.
He said part of that was government property. And you know how I love the aliens, and there's the story that Bigfoot might be aliens. Maybe they're like protecting them in the government property because you can't go there. You're not supposed to go on the government property. But note to self, stay away from Daniel Boone National Forest. No, thank you. Not interested in finding a Bigfoot, but I am interested in continuing this story, which we will do soon. Thank you so much for sharing your time with me. If you haven't already, please hit that like button and consider subscribing, and then come on back, because we're going to watch some new stuff. I'll say different things, and it's going to be fantastic. Until then, have a wonderful day.
Yeah.